Well, I was going to start going off on the Walmart shooter. It turns out the Walmart shooter of last week was, yeah, the guy walked into a Walmart and shot it up. And he had been living with a bunch of Bibles and no furniture. But now we've got another guy. We got 26 people dead. And, you know, down in Sutherland, Texas, we have now reached the point where more people have died in mass shootings in 1 year, in 2017, than in any other year. A trend that began back in the 1980s and has just burst through, that is showing the world the fundamental mental illness associated with an industry, in this case the weapons industry, owning an entire political party. So that people can buy, you know, weapons that have nothing to do with sports shooting, have nothing to do with hunting, have nothing to do with tradition or taking your kids out in the woods or any of that, you know, assault weapons. This is crazy. Chris Murphy spoke out this morning. Actually, it was yesterday afternoon. He said, the paralysis you feel right now, the impotent helplessness that washes over you as news of another mass slaughter scrolls across this television screen, isn't real. It's a fiction created and methodically cultivated by the gun lobby, designed to assure that no laws are passed to make America safer, because those laws would cut into their profits. As my colleagues go to sleep tonight, Senator Chris Murphy said, they need to think about whether the political support of the gun industry is worth the blood that flows endlessly onto the floors of American churches, elementary schools, movie theaters, and city streets. Ask yourself, how can you claim that you respect human life while choosing fealty to weapon makers over support for measures favored by the vast majority of your constituents? Now, there's the Colorado killer, by the way, a guy named Scott Ostrom. Oh, he was just a loner. He killed three people last Wednesday. But we're now in mass shootings, people killed in mass shootings now, with the 26 at the First Baptist Church, the 58 at the Las Vegas Strip, the 48 in the Pulse nightclub, the 14 in San Bernardino. I mean, actually San Bernardino was last year, but it all is adding up to just a genuinely terrible situation. And there are arguably multiple pieces to this. I mean, we've got the piece of there's too many guns, particularly guns that can kill a lot of people really quickly. Too many weapons of war are floating around on our streets. And at the very least, we could go back to the rational and practical position that was even supported by the Reagan administration, which is, why do we need assault weapons? You know, assault weapons are for armies, and maybe for police departments in some rare situations, but not for the average person. This is crazy. And then you look at how this is playing out and what's going on with this. If you go back and look at the connection here. Stephen Paddock, the guy who shot up Vegas, had a habit of berating his girlfriend in public. Okay, this from a Quartz Media piece. Stephen Paddock shared a trait with other mass killers. He abused women. This is by Matt de Haldevang. And he just goes through the list. Who were these people? Omar Mateen, 29, the Pulse nightclub shooter. Physically abused his former wife regularly. Sengan Hui Cho, gunned down 32 people at Virginia Tech in April 2007, had been harassing women. Adam Lanza shot his mother 4 times before killing children at Sandy Hook. George Hennard stalked 2 young adult sisters and wrote them a letter in which he called women vipers a few months before he murdered 14 women and 9 men in Killeen, Texas in '91. Paddock reports the Los Angeles Times, back to Stephen Paddock, regularly demeaned his girlfriend in front of others at the local Starbucks where they were regulars. "I'm paying for your drink just like I'm paying for you," Starbucks staff recalled him saying to Mary Lou Danley. In more than half of U.S. mass shootings between 2009 and 2016, the killer, invariably male, shot a current or former intimate partner or family member. Now, there's a really important concept here of cultural shift, rapid cultural shift. We're seeing this happen right now with Harvey Weinstein. This has, just kind of exploded across the scene, and I think in part because Harvey Weinstein was a big liberal that the right-wing press, the Drudge press and whatnot, would give him the coverage that they weren't willing to give to, for example, Bill O'Reilly's sexual indiscretions or sexual crimes or whatever you may want to call it. And so there's like this moment when the press on both the left and the right are vilifying this guy, and apparently with good reason. It is causing a cultural shift. I really think in America that 10 years from now we will look back on this year and say, that was the year when it became inappropriate for men to harass women in the workplace, basically. And worse, obviously, but just as a starting point. And, we see these major inflection points in our culture, and things shift. And, it takes a while for things to shift, but things shift. If we're seeing that revolution, that change, that shift happening with regard to sexual assault, could we be seeing it with regard to gun assault as well? Now, there's also a clear association between mass shooters and people who abuse women. So it's almost like these things are coming together. And with regard to the Weinstein thing, I wonder to what extent does Donald Trump bear some, well, I was going to say bear some guilt, maybe deserve some credit, it would be the phrase to use, for Weinstein being outed. Because it seems that we have, after all these reports of Donald Trump, assaulting and even raping some women, or the possibility of it. Trump, of course, is saying they're all liars. But I think that, especially after the Access Hollywood tape came out, a lot of Americans are saying, okay, enough. We're sick and tired of wealthy, powerful men abusing people, particularly women, who have less power and wealth. Not going to happen anymore. So how do we turn these mass shootings into something similar? Now, with women being, harassed and whatnot by men in the workplace, the way that change is happening is people coming out and saying, "Me too," saying, "Here's what happened." And I'm wondering if when we start seriously telling the stories of the victims, something that the media almost never does, the closest they got to it, I think, was Sandy Hook. And even then, it was like, oh, we have to give these people space. We have to respect their privacy. And I'm wondering how much of that meme is being promoted by the NRA. Oh, you can't talk about the victim. Yes, let's talk about the victims.